Okay, thanks a lot for the nice introduction. Yeah, so my goal of this presentation basically is to raise a little bit of awareness, because everybody nowadays is using computers, you're using your smartphones, you're using all kinds of network devices, and I have the feeling at least that there's very little awareness of what could actually happen with all your data, with all your information that you're putting on social media, that you're sending by email, that you're storing on your disk, on your hard disk even. So today I'm going to talk about certain different aspects and give you a general awareness of what you should think about when you use computers, when you use the internet, and also give you some hands-on ideas of what you can do to work more securely, more privately on the internet and with your computer. So the two main topics that I'm going to focus on today is confidentiality and privacy. Confidentiality basically means you have some kind of information that is yours and that you don't want others to know about, to keep something secret that you have, to some kind of email information, some kind of files that you transfer, something you store on your disk. So that is what we talk about. That's when we say confidentiality, we mean trying to keep something private that you don't want others to know about. And another topic is privacy. It's basically that you don't want others to know what you're doing. So if you're browsing the internet, maybe you're using SSL to encrypt your communication so nobody can see what you're doing, but at least they can see where you're going. They can see what you're accessing. So privacy is about keeping secret or letting others not know what you're doing. So these are the two main topics that I want to focus on today. But before we get started, first we have to get an understanding of when we use the internet, when we do something with our smartphone, when we do something with our computer, with our laptop. It's not that when we send something from one computer to another, that it goes directly from that computer to another computer. Or if I send a text message with my phone to another phone, it doesn't go from my phone directly to the other phone. There is always something in between. Typically, it's sent over the internet. And when something is sent over the internet, it never goes the fastest way from one node, from one point to another. There's a lot of different stages that it goes through. So if, for example, this blue computer on the left wants to send something to the red computer on the right, it goes via the internet, and it doesn't go directly from this computer to the other computer. It accesses the internet at some point. In the internet, it goes between different providers, between different backbones, all kinds of infrastructure on the internet. The data is sent forth and back until it finally reaches the destination. And on every single step that this data passes, there potentially could be somebody looking at it. There could be somebody working at the company that hosts these computers. There might be an agency, a government agency that wants to look at the information. There might even be some hackers who want, or some intelligence agencies working for somebody trying to get information. So all kinds of nodes are involved between sending something from this blue computer to the red computer where somebody could look at it. So basically, and to make it even more drastic, this is an example of what it looks like when you send an email. When you send an email, let's say you are the blue computer, computer A, and you want to send an email to the red computer, computer B. You have some kind of internet access provider. Let's say you access the internet using, for example, AT&T. So this might be your AT&T access provider, and the computer B person is using, say, Verizon to access the internet. So we have two different internet access providers where this information passes through. So these two providers can already look at this email. So then let's say computer A has an email account at Yahoo, and computer B has an email account at Google. So we have, again, another party involved. We have Yahoo involved, we have Google involved. They can also look at the email. And then we have all kinds of connections that are needed to pass the email from Yahoo to Google, and every step on the way, people can look at the email again. That means you have hundreds, if not thousands, of different points where people can actually look at your email. And you can actually compare an email to a picture postcard where you write something on the back. if you don't encrypt an email, it's like writing something on a piece of paper, or taking a picture postcard, writing something on it, putting it in the mailbox, and sending it to your friend in Germany, for example. So it gets dropped in the mailbox. The letterman that picks it up can look at it. It gets dropped to the letter sorting center. Everybody, somebody working at the center can look at it. It gets put in a transport truck. The person who drives the transport truck can look at it. It gets put on some plane. People who are putting the mail on the plane can look at it. So all the way from where you drop it into the mailbox until it reaches the recipient, people can look at it. And this is what emails are like. Everybody who's on the way can look at your email. So when you send an email, it's nothing but confidential or private. It's like using a picture postcard and dropping it into a letterbox, and a lot of people on the way can actually look at it. So what does it tell us? Would you put a secret on a picture postcard? Would you? Would you send something private by email? No? I know a lot of people who think that email is something very private, and they write a lot of things that they don't want the world to know by email without encrypting it. And whenever you send something by email, which you don't encrypt, which in most cases is the default, be sure that you are aware that everything you put in this email can be read by many, many, many people from when it leaves your email server, your email program, until it reaches the destination. So this is just something you should always keep in mind. So what can you do? So what kind of techniques do we have available to make sure that when computer A sends something to computer B, not everybody can read it? That's something that's been around for many, many years. And who of you has heard of PGP? Okay, half the room. So PGP is something I want to talk about. It's a concept, or it's actually an application which was developed more than 20 years ago in 1991 by a guy called Phil Zimmermann. He developed it, and PGP is actually the shortcut for pretty good privacy. Because when he developed this, emails were always unencrypted. There was no standard technology available to encrypt emails. Everybody was sending emails unencrypted. Okay, back in 1991, not everybody had email. Most people who used emails were some computer people or some university people. But back then, basically nobody was encrypting their emails, or only very, very few who had certain special technologies. But there was no standard for doing it. So it was basically impossible, because you would need the person that you send something to also know about how you want to encrypt and decrypt it. So Phil Zimmermann came along and said, we need some kind of easy way of encrypting emails. So he designed this pretty good privacy. And what happened? He was put in jail. He was put in jail because he was a threat to the security of the United States, because he developed a program that enabled normal people to encrypt emails. He was actually in jail for more than a year because this was seen as such a big threat to the security of the United States that some normal people were able to actually have a secret from the government. And he came out of prison, and by now he's a very well-known and highly paid security expert at a big company. But at that time, it was actually seen as something very dangerous, that people can have a secret. And but this was a founding block for what we now have as a standard technology for sending encrypted emails, which allows us to encrypt the email here on the computer where we actually are sending it from, and then all this way, when it passes through all these different connection points, nobody can actually look at the content, because it doesn't make sense. It's encrypted. It has been converted to a format which only this computer here can unencrypt again. So encryption basically means you take something which is in plain normal text, and you convert it to an encrypted format that only somebody who has a certain secret can unencrypt. And unencryption basically means that you take the this block of gibberish which is not readable and convert it back to the original message which was used before you encrypt it. So how does PGP work? Well, PGP has this concept called public key interchange. That basically means there's two different kinds of keys. There's a key pair, and one of the keys, the public key, is used for encrypting, and the private key is used to decrypt, to convert the encrypted message back to the original. And the idea is that you share your public key with everybody that you want to send encrypted emails to you, and the private key you keep secret. So you have this, the private key is only on your computer, and it's even put in some special storage where you have to provide a password to get to it, so that nobody who gets access to your computer can use it without knowing the password. And only the emails which are then encrypted for you, you can then decrypt, and nobody on the way from when it's sent to when you receive it can actually do something with it. So that's the basic concept between PGP. You have these two keys, and one of them you keep secret, and the other one you share, and only with the shared key, people can actually encrypt, and just the matching private key can be used to decrypt the messages. When you encrypt something, unfortunately, it doesn't show very well on the slide. It's a little bit strange. This is supposed to show what an encrypted email looks like. You cannot see very much, but basically it's a lot of weird characters which don't make any sense. Yeah. Okay. Yeah. That's what an encrypted email looks like. It's still letters and numbers, but they don't make any sense. And only the person who has the private key that matches the public key that was used to encrypt this can actually decrypt it. So why is PGP good, or why is it secure? PGP is secure because Phil Zimmermann didn't go out and created a new encryption algorithms. This is something that only really highly sophisticated mathematicians can do. What he did is he basically used existing technologies which have been around since the 70s, where thousands of mathematicians had looked at them, tried to find weaknesses and couldn't, and used these existing technologies and put it into some package which was easy to use by everybody. So PGP is not a new type of encryption and decryption algorithms. It's just based on standard technologies which have been around for many, many years and which have been more or less proven that they are secure. And he made a package out of this technology so it could be easily used to encrypt and decrypt emails. And especially what he also did is that the keys, the size, how big these keys are variable. So you can have big keys and small keys, and that's what the US government was so afraid about, that people could actually create keys which were so big that even the biggest NSA computers couldn't crack it. Because in many years there was also a special export regulation which the United States had decided that only trusted countries were allowed to use big keys, because if a key gets a certain length, so this is the size of a key that is nowadays commonly used, and even if you take a key which is only 1/4 the size, it's already so big that no computer nowadays can actually crack it. And that's one of the strengths of PGP, that it allows you to have a very long key, which makes it impossible with nowadays technologies to crack it. There's two types of PGP variants which are out there. One is called GNU-PG, which is basically the non-commercial version, which is based on the original implementation by Phil Zimmermann, but has been developed by a community of different people who contributed to it. It's for free. Anybody can download it. The source, basically the programming code is publicly available. People can look at it. So you can be more or less sure that there are no backdoors that maybe the NSA or some other government agency introduced are in there. So this is basically the PGP version which is recommended, and it's also the only one that's free. There is a commercial version out there which some company use, but why would you want to spend money on something you can get for free? And even the free version is probably better because it's open source and people can can be sure that there's no secret stuff inside of it that maybe could be used to actually unencrypt emails you shouldn't be using. Yeah, they can, yeah. So the PGP itself is a standard. So this PGP version can communicate with this. So if you have a person you want to send something to who are using this version, but you want to use the free version, that's no problem, yeah. So PGP itself is a standard, and it's also the most widely spread standard for encrypting emails, and they are compatible. Yeah. So I will have a slide later on where I have a link also to a special page where I'm giving some instructions on how this can be installed and what can be done with it. But basically, this is all you need to know. You can go to this website, GNU-PG.org. They have a download. It's available for basically any operating system, so you can download it for Windows, for Mac, for Linux, and install it on your PC. And there's also plugins available for almost all email clients. If you're using Outlook, or if you're using Thunderbird, or if you're using the default email applications that come with your operating system, there's different plugins available, so it's very easy. And there's a lot of web pages that describe of how to set it up. So, but it's very straightforward. You basically just install it, click on next. It asks you some questions. You click next, 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 and you have your key and you're set to go. It's very straightforward. And also the keys that you have, so this private public key will then be automatically stored locally on your computer. And the public key you can then exchange with people that you want to communicate with. But there's also special key exchange servers which are out there where you can basically upload your key, and then everybody who wants to send a mail to you doesn't even have to know your key. They can just look it up on these key exchange servers. But I mean, typically, or unfortunately right now, not most people are actually using PGP. So what I typically do is the people that I know that are using PGP, I just send them my public key, because there's unfortunately not too many, and then they have it and they can use it, and it's very easy and straightforward to use. So PGP is something I really recommend using, and what's also important to do is don't only encrypt emails that actually contain secret stuff, encrypt all your emails. If you only encrypt, let's say, 2 emails per year, it doesn't seem right. So it looks like you're doing something illegal 2 times a year, and the rest of the time you're sending normal stuff. And even the normal stuff you're doing, why would you want everybody to know what you're sending in email? So actually a good practice is just to configure it in such a way that it always encrypts. So when you have PGP installed, what it will basically do in your email program, it will see whose public keys you have, and whenever you're sending an email to that person, it will automatically encrypt it. This is the default setting. And that's also a good setting, because it should just be normal that people encrypt their emails. It's also normal that you lock your house at home. It's normal that you lock your car. Why should you keep your emails open to everybody? So best is really just to install PGP, and by default, let it encrypt all the emails that you send. One other topic I want to talk about is encrypting the data you have on your computer. So now we have PGP that we can use to encrypt our emails that we send around. But when I store something on my laptop, for example, by default, it is stored on my laptop unencrypted. So if I lose my laptop, if somebody steals it, if somebody wants to access my information, all they need to do is take the disk out of the laptop, put it into some other device, and they can access all the information. Even if I have like Windows or Linux configured so that I have to log in with a strong password, they can just take the disk out of my machine and access the information which is on the disk. And so that this is not so easy, there's also ways that you can encrypt the data which is stored on your disk. Or even if you have like a USB device, it's even worse, because a USB device you carry around, it's not that hard to lose it, it's not that hard for somebody to steal it, and everything that's on it can then be accessed, whoever gets a hold of it. So there's a lot of tools available that can be used to encrypt your disk, encrypt your USB devices. A lot of USB devices nowadays, when you buy them, USB memory sticks will actually come with some kind of encryption software. Not all of them. I recommend using on Windows an application called VeraCrypt. VeraCrypt is also an open source application, just like the GNU-PG, in the sense that it's developed by an open community. The source code is open. Anybody can look at the source and can be sure that it's safe. And it's very easy. You basically install it, and then you can decide what you want to encrypt, either the whole disk or just parts of the disk. And everything you store in these locations will then be encrypted. And only when you enter a password will you be able to access this information. So especially when you have laptops which you carry around, which can easily be stolen or lost, it's very much recommended that you don't put your data unencrypted on the disk, but encrypt it. And it's very easy. So this is just the one-time thing you need to install, and after that it's very straightforward. Everything you store is encrypted. If you're using Linux, almost all the Linux distributions nowadays, like Ubuntu, whatever, when you install the Linux, it will ask you during the installation if you want to encrypt your disk or not, and it will automatically then encrypt all the data which is stored in your disk. So for Mac does that too? Okay. Yeah, but Mac is again, if you trust Apple to keep your data secret, then yeah. So Apple is a US company. A lot of US companies need to do a lot of stuff. It's very unlikely that the NSA wants anything from you, but if the NSA wants to access your data, I'm sure that Apple will provide them some way to do that. So depends on how secret you want to keep your information. Yeah, so just with the GNU-PG, there will also be a slide coming up later on where I give a link to a page where it's described how to set this up. So this VeraCode application, VeraCrypt application, is very easy to install. It's for free, can be used on any Windows PC, and for Linux it's even easier. You just can do it during the installation time. So now we address two different topics of how to make sure that we keep our information confidential, that we encrypt our information. The other topic was about how can we keep the stuff that we do on the internet private? How can we ensure our privacy? And there's a really nice tool or nice infrastructure available called Tor, the Tor network. There's a website called torproject.org, and what Tor basically is, it's a tool which will enable you to use internet communication, but it will be sent through a channel of obfuscations which will make sure that nobody knows it's you. So you basically access the internet, and using this Tor network, it will not send the information directly to where you want it to go, but will actually send it through a whole array of different kinds of other computers, which will all pass your information on and on and on until it finally reaches your destination, so that and every time it's passed on, all that information which might allow to be traced back to you is stripped from the communication, so that basically there's this intermediate step which will ensure that nobody can trace the information back to you. So if you're accessing a website, typically the server that you're accessing knows who you are, because that server, of course, has to send you back the response to you. So the website actually has to reach your browser. So a server, typically a web server, knows who it's talking to. And this Tor network enables you to obfuscate this information in such a way that it becomes impossible to trace it back who it originally came from. This allows you to browse websites. This allows you to send files, for example, if you want to upload something to a certain website, to exchange files in such a way that it's impossible to trace back who it comes from originally. Or if you're using If you're logging onto an external computer and you want to do it anonymously, you can also use this Tor. So anything that goes via TCP, so TCP is the transfer control protocol, which is the base protocol that's used for basically all internet communication. Anything that's sent over the internet can be obfuscated using the Tor network. And the Tor network is also a free project. If you just go to torproject.org, you can download the application, you can use it for free, and it can be used on at least Windows, Linux, and Mac, but probably also other operating systems. And it's something that's recommended that you should be using when you're browsing on a daily basis, because it ensures you keeps you anonymous, whatever. Anonymity? No. Yeah. So this is something that allows you to browse the internet secretly. You had a question?
Yes, I stick chains that I keep everything in here.
Yeah.
You know, it's frankly, that's the only surest way. This is probably going to make it very difficult.
Yeah.
But just theoretically, if they know your IP address and they have access to your records with your basically ISP,
yeah.
then they can know the times at which you request the internet. And if they're monitoring a specific website, they know the times when the request came in. So just to know, if nothing else.
Yeah. So the Tor network, basically, it also obfuscates, it doesn't send your IP address. So it has this array where it sends information through. So of course, if they're able to know at what time you did something, and they know at what time something was on the other side, they might be able to match it. You're right. Yes. Yeah. So if let's say they know something happened at a certain time, and out of the 20 that they're monitoring, only one person was active at that time, they might say, okay, it must have been him. Yeah, they can probably, so of course, but I'm going to come to that also later. There's a lot of things you can do, but if you want to be really, really, really sure, the best is not to use computers and not use the internet. Yes, so you have one question?
I remember hearing an article like within the last year that somehow Tor was breached, or there was like news that we should not use Tor back.
There was some parts of so the Tor is not one machine. It's like it's a network. It's several thousand computers, mostly university computers, that host certain parts of the Tor network. And there was some parts of it which were hosted in I think it was in the US, were actually obfuscated and analyzed. It happens every now and then that some parts of it might be confiscated and analyzed. But since it's such a big network and the computers are really distributed all over the world, so it's close to impossible to imagine that any country could get at so much information that it really becomes useful. Because when you use Tor, it's typically at least 10 different countries involved where the data will be passing through. So they would have to confiscate so many computers in so many different countries that they can actually match this chain of information, that they can actually make something useful out of it. It's very unlikely. Of course, they can potentially do that. So the computers will never be 100% secure. But this is something that makes it really, really hard or close to impossible to trace back who is actually doing something. Yeah?
In terms of web browser, is there much of a difference between using Tor and a VPN? Like, I know that
yeah.
will hide your IP address from the website that you're using, but
yeah, but it's only one. It's like VPN is like using like parts of Tor. So VPN, basically you connect to some host somewhere, and then the information gets passed on. So the VPN are typically used to circumvent some kind of like country restrictions, or so like if you're in Germany and you want to use some kind of streaming service which is only offered in the US, a lot of Germans will like get a VPN access to some US provider and to access the internet. So it seems like they're coming from some US host, and they're not coming from German host. But this is very easy to trace back. It makes it a little bit more complicated, because whatever agency wants to get information, they have to now not talk to one provider, but they have to talk to two providers. But that's not a good way of hiding information.
So is it almost like just lots of different VPNs later?
Yeah, it's kind of like different VPNs, and all the VPNs on the way have some agreement that they will not like log your information. They will just pass it on and throw it away. So it's kind of like an array of many different VPNs, kind of.
I think
Yeah.
one important difference between the Tor project and VPNs is that with a Tor project, if you want to upload a video, for example, it's really low.
Yeah, okay, definitely.
With a VPN, you can browse low videos or low content.
Yeah. So since the Tor network is something that's provided for free, and since it passes through so many different nodes, it becomes dramatically slower. I mean, you will not be able to do video streaming with Tor, but you will be able to browse websites. You will not be able to do everything because it will just be too slow. But it provides a lot of additional, it makes you a lot more anonymous than just using a VPN or something like that. Yes?
So, in terms of some websites, like all the different websites, like many websites we have only browser adapters that you use bypass.
Yeah. So when you use Tor, it is recommended that you use a special plugin in Firefox or whatever browser you're using, and these plugins will ensure that any of these direct connections will not bypass the Tor network. So it can happen that you call something and that calls something back from you in order to call again something, and that might then not be passing through the Tor network. So there's special plugins available for most common web browsers, for example for Firefox, which enable that these specific callbacks will be disabled. So yeah, I mean, if you go to the website Tor project, it also recommends that you basically use a special browser that they provide, which has already all this configured. But it's all very easily explained on this website. So yeah, you have to be a little bit careful. You can also, that's a big problem with security. There's many things you can secure, but you can do also many little mistakes that it becomes unsecure again. So the best is always to use the standard configurations which are recommended, because people who thought of these standard configurations have thought about all these different problems that can potentially go wrong. Okay, so sometimes we see things like this. So we see news messages, news reports which say, oh, the NSA or the US or the UK or whatever government is now able to encrypt everything on the internet. So, or they have spent millions of dollars and now they can crack everything. So we see this a lot, and you should be scared. But these news media reports never really mean that any of the government agencies have actually been able to crack PGP, to crack these algorithms which are used by PGP, or to crack SSL or whatever. It basically always means that they have found some kind of problem in some implementation of how it was implemented. They might have found some software error which was available in Thunderbird or Firefox. They might have found some software error which was available in some kind of web server software. But so far there has not been a single incident which actually indicates that any security agency, any government agency has been able to actually crack any of the encryption software which is out there. There's always been problems in the software that they have found, but the software itself is not, the concept is not the problem. The problem is always that there was some other mistake. For example, for encrypting data on the internet, for the normal HTTP communications, when you're browsing the internet, SSL is used. And SSL basically provides a way of encrypting the communication that's sent from your web browser, for example, Firefox or Internet Explorer, to some website. And if these certificates are stolen, then of course somebody can get in between and get your information. So these government agencies, they have been able to steal certificates, they have been able to break certain mechanisms which are used in the browsers, but they have never ever been able to break the actual technology which is used underneath. They have not been able to to find any problems in PGP. They have not been able to find any problems in the encryption and decryption algorithms. So we can still rely on the security that we currently have to be secure, even against the NSA. But we have to be aware that there's many other things that can happen, that can go wrong, that could potentially let these agencies access our information. So there are some things which can actually, or have actually happened, to make PGP, which is for email encryption, VeriCrypt for hard disk encryption, SSL, which is for web communication encryption, to be not secure. And there's three things which have happened. The biggest problem is that there are actual software errors. So the people who write the software are just humans. Humans make mistakes. So there are software errors. I don't know if this logo is very familiar. It's the Heartbleed bug logo. So Heartbleed was one of those very severe or very highly publicized issues in SSL, which was discovered at the beginning of last year, which basically led to all the websites in the world having to create new SSL certificates because it was broken. So that was a software error. Somebody who implemented that part of the SSL communication did a mistake, and whoever found this mistake first was able to use this mistake to actually get around the encryption. There was other kinds of SSL and shell issues, all kinds of security problems come due to software errors. So software is never 100% secure. So whenever you're using computers, you have to be aware that whatever software you're using might not be doing exactly what you expected to do, because people who implemented it made mistakes. That's one big problem. The second problem that we are facing is that actually there is a lot of software out there which has backdoors. It is known that Microsoft operating system, the Windows, has backdoors which provide government agency access to the operating system. There is the assumption that even the BIOS, the BIOS is the little piece of software which is used in every computer when it starts up to load information, that this can actually have backdoors by the NSA. And there's also information out there that certain types of hardware, so if you're using high-wi hardware for your network communication, the Chinese government has access to that hardware, to have backdoors into that hardware. So all kinds of backdoors might exist in the software, in the hardware that you're using, which potentially could be used to get around the security that you have in your computers. And last but not least, there might be spy trojans which the government agencies are installing. So this is the logo of the Bundestrojaner, which is like the spy trojan which the German government is using. This is supposed to be a depiction of the Raisin project, which is the spy trojan software by the US and UK government. So a lot of government agencies have spent a lot of time, have spent a lot of development power into creating so-called spy trojans, which is software which installs on your computer and tries to intercept the data communication before it is encrypted or after it's been decrypted. So if you do very good encryption and somebody gets your information before you encrypt it, obviously they have the information even though you're using encryption. So that's basically what the government agencies are doing. They're trying to get to the information before you encrypt it or get to the information after you have decrypted it. And this is called source tapping, because they try to get to the information at the source before it actually gets encrypted. And there's a lot of software which has already been detected in the last years. So in Germany, I'm talking a little bit more about Germany because I'm from Germany and I know what's going on in Germany, but it's happening all over the world. There was a spy trojan developed by the German government, which was discovered by the Chaos Computer Club, which is a German privacy organization, in 2011, and some hackers were even able to hack into the company that created the spy Trojan software in 2014. So now even the sources of the spy Trojan software is available. So it's obvious that this kind of software has been used by government agencies, and something that the German government is doing, definitely a lot of other governments are doing as well. There is this region project which is equivalent to the German spy Trojan software, which is used by the Five Eyes agencies, which is US, UK, Australia, New Zealand, and Canada. So they're using that spy software. So there's a lot of software out there which has the sole purpose of infecting computers and getting at the information before it actually gets sent to some kind of encryption algorithm. Fortunately, all the software which has so far been detected has been for Windows. So at least the German government has so far not. There's no known spy software available for Linux. And since the Mac OS is based on Linux, the same applies for Mac. But it's probably just a matter of time until they also have this kind of software available for other operating systems. So that's something you should always think about when you're using encryption, when you're using privacy mechanisms. There is unfortunately a long list of things that can still go wrong to prevent you from actually really communicating securely. So what can you do? It sounds pretty, frustrating if you know that all these things can happen. So should you not use computers at all anymore? Can anybody imagine of not using computers anymore, or smartphones or whatever? No, probably not. I mean, we're so stuck with these devices. So the best recommendation I can give you is protect yourself as good as possible. I mean, make it as hard as possible for somebody to get to your information, and protecting yourself as good as possible means that you have to do certain things differently. I mean, here's a list of things you should do in order to encrypt your data better, or to encrypt it at all. Is, instead of sending unencrypted emails, install PGP and use only encrypted emails using PGP. Instead of storing data unencrypted on your disk, use disk encryption. And when you're communicating over the internet, like when you're browsing the internet, you're calling websites, make sure, a lot of websites nowadays enable you to use both HTTP or HTTPS. So a lot of social networks even by now have the default set to HTTPS. I think if you access Facebook nowadays, you cannot even do it without HTTPS. So HTTPS should be used instead of HTTP. There's different other transfer protocols. FTP is a file transfer protocol which is used for when you're, for example, downloading files from the internet. There's also a secure FTP which is encrypted. When you're setting up your email program, when you're accessing your email client, there's typically a way that you can access it directly, or you can use the secure way of doing it. So SMTP is the simple mail transfer protocol, which is used for all the email communication, but there's also something called secure simple mail protocol secure, which is then using again this SSL. So there's almost for every type of communication which is out there on the internet, there's always a secure option. You just have to make use of it, and then the data will be encrypted. I don't know how many people are using WhatsApp here. You probably all know that WhatsApp is part of, was bought by Facebook, and WhatsApp information is not, I think they are now switching to encrypted, but it at least used to be not encrypted. There is an alternative to WhatsApp called Threema, which was basically, got popular when WhatsApp was bought by Facebook. Threema is a Swiss company that's operating from Switzerland, so it's very hard for at least a lot of government agencies to get access to this information. And Threema has a big advantage that it does peer-to-peer encryption. So when you send messages using Threema, it's always encrypted, and you can also even trust who you want to send information to and want to accept information from using fingerprints, you can actually, well, not thumb fingerprints, but signature fingerprints, you can verify who you want to communicate with and yeah, make it more secure that way. Skype is still very popular, I guess. Skype is part of Microsoft. Microsoft is known to have a lot of backdoors that it provides to government agencies, and it's known that Skype even has some backdoors. So a good alternative to Skype would be Mumble. Mumble is a free open software that works very similar to Skype. You can do communication, you can chat, but Mumble by default is encrypted. So all the information that's sent via Mumble is encrypted, and it's not operated by a big company like Microsoft. It's open source, so there's different servers that can be used for that. And instead of using one of those commercial soft operating systems like Windows or the Mac OS, a good alternative would be to use Linux, because Linux is also open source. Linux provides a lot of security functionality out of the box, and Linux, of course, is also for free. So Linux is also one alternative that could be used for Windows and Mac. So these are some recommendations of what you can do to encrypt your software, your data better, to use trusted services and software, and recommendation to make it more anonymous. What you do on the internet is to use Tor, of course with the limitation that certain things like video streaming will not work in a satisfactory way. So these are some recommendations that I wanted to give. A lot of times people nowadays don't even have an email program set up on their computer. So to make it easier for people who don't have their own computer, or maybe don't want to install something on their computer, a good way of still having this additional privacy and security is maybe to have a USB device that stores all your information in an encrypted way. So one easy way of achieving this is to have a USB stick and install some software on that encrypts the data. And in this encrypted USB stick, install Thunderbird, which is an email program, install GNU-PG, which is the PGP software, use the Enigmail plugin, which is the plugin that uses PGP in Thunderbird, and this will provide you a software that can be used on any laptop, on any internet cafe computer, wherever you have a USB connection. You can just stick it in, start this application, use it for your email communication. After you're done, take the USB stick out, and everything that's stored on the USB stick will be encrypted, and the information you send by email can also be encrypted. So I don't know if you can all read this. There's a website, it's this one here, AR-conference. It's important that there's this :10443 is behind it, because it's a special port for encryption. And /USB. On this web page, I have put down an instruction which describes exactly the different steps you need to perform to create a USB stick which has exactly this functionality. So this will provide you a USB stick which you can use to store any kind of data, and it will be encrypted on that, and it will also allow you to send encrypted email and receive encrypted email. So check out this page. And the last thing I want to tell you is, as the person in the back who left now already said, the best, of course, is if you have something you want to keep really secret, keep it in your head and don't use a computer for it. Whenever you use a computer, there's always the chance that somebody will get access to this information. So if you have something that you want to keep really, really, really safe, don't use a computer and don't use the internet. Are there some more questions? Yeah, one, obviously. Yeah.
So I'm wondering if there are any tips or ways that you can actually detect that your computer has been compromised in some way, whether it's the Trojans or any of those other ways.
There's a lot of antivirus software, obviously. I mean, you should definitely not use a Windows PC without having a virus scanner, because there's so much, not just like government agency, or but like a lot of hackers who are just out there putting all kinds of malware on the internet. So you should definitely have some virus scanner activated. But if it's something that's done in a good way, for example, the spy software, now that the spy software is known, there's ways to detect it. But before it's known, I mean, the people who write the spy software they're not the dumbest people. So they know how to hide it. So there's probably a lot of spy software out there that has not been detected yet and cannot be detected by our standard means. So one thing that is a good recommendation is maybe to not keep your computer for more than half a year and just buy a new computer every half year. And especially if you have to give somebody your computer. For example, if you're at an airport and they take your computer away from you to do some scanning with it, the chances are very likely that they could install something on your computer. So if you want to be really sure, just buy a new computer every half year and sell your old one, and this way you can at least be sure that there's no malware or no spy software on there for a very long time. Are there some more questions? Or yeah?
So I've got Linux and I've got my home drive encrypted. Is there a way that you can additionally help that encrypt individual files?
Yeah, of course.
How do you do that?
Well, you could, like the VeraCrypt software, which is available for Windows, also works on Linux, and you can actually use that to encrypt individual files also. So you will have double encryption. Yeah, you can do that. Okay, so yeah, just check out this webpage for instructions, and I'll still be around if you have some more questions. And thank you.
Yeah, thank you.
Thanks.